Hello sir, I am Kala Tarakia from class 5. I study in the Shishukunj International School. Can you brief me what power does a pen have?
Well, the pen might have power, a certain amount of power, but you mustn't think in terms of wielding a pen only to have power or to be powerful. Use a pen to give pleasure to yourself and to others. If it has any power, it will have power over a period of time. For instance, we may still be reading Shakespeare or Dickens or Premchand, and their work could be affecting our lives, and in that way still be powerful after a couple of 100 years. But when you actually sit down to write, you mustn't think in terms of, this is going to make me very powerful or important. The writing itself should be what gives you pleasure.
The boy in red blazer.
Well,
Hello sir, I am Saksham Jain and I have been writing for the school exhibition. Nowadays that my friend advised me to have a Kindle at home for reading, but I prefer books more. So could you brief me about what is better and what not?
Well, whatever you prefer, as long as you're reading, the medium in which you read is up to you. And if you get a pleasure from a Kindle, fine. If you prefer the printed book, as I do, that's great too. So it's really a question of personal preference. 50 pounds, but that was enough to come back to India back in 1955. So 50 pounds, then the fare, you traveled by sea in those days. The air services hadn't yet developed. So you could come and go in 40 pounds. And so when I got back to Bombay, I still had 10 pounds. It got me back to Dehradun, and that's where I started writing hundreds of stories and articles for magazines and newspapers, and I never stopped. All these hands.
This call from Sassanya.
Sairam sir, my name is Venavi Narayane. My question is that who was your role model when you were younger, and how do you feel being the role model of young children who are aspiring to become writers?
Well, I don't know if I'm a role model. I'm certainly not a physical role model. But if you want to follow my writing career, it might well help you, because the first thing, it consisted of many years of struggle, of not making much money, but still wanting to write and make a living from it. So I wrote for magazines, for newspapers, for radio, and I got by, and it was only after about 20-30 years of...
So at that time, how should we overcome these kind of thoughts?
In other words, writer's block. Well, it happens to us at school when we have to do an essay, and we get to get halfway through and then wonder now how we're going to complete it. So as I was saying just now, plan it and plot it beforehand. Make your notes, write the story in your head so that you won't get stuck when you're writing. And of course, if you are having difficulty with a book or a long piece of work, you can always put it aside and come back to it later. So that's one method. And in the last resort, keep a waste paper basket near you and get rid of it.
So red checks, yeah.
I am Hiti Verma from class 5, the Shishukunj International School. I want to ask you that, do you narrate your story to someone else before penning it down?
No, not really. I've never narrated my story to anyone before writing it, and even after it's written, I still don't share it with anyone until it's actually printed and published. Then, of course, anyone can read it. But I think it's best to keep it to yourself. You see, once you read it out to somebody, or in a way, it's lost some of its power. Some of the strength has gone out of you, in a way. So it's best to, I think, hold it in until you can just give it to the reading public at large.
Right, yeah.
Hello, sir. My name is Ved Mishra and I am from Bilal International School. My question is, when I read the story Boy Scouts Forever, I got the dish named Bon Bhujji. Have you ever made it in real and tasted it?
Yes, I've experimented. I've often experimented with cooking, and what you refer to as Bon Bhujji was what I created when I was a Boy Scout, and they gave me a cookery badge. And I'd never cooked before. They said, but now you're the Boy Scout cook, you have to make something tonight. So I cut up all the sabzi I could find and started, added some ghee, but it didn't look interesting. So I got some strawberry jam and added that. Then I added some candies too, and if you mix everything up, sweet, sour, pickles, jams, you'll get a wonderful dish coming out of it. Nobody might eat it, but you can always give it to the animals that maybe come around the camp. So anyway, that was called bhuji. But after that, they took my cookery badge away and never allowed me to cook again. Thank you.
Yeah, that girl, yeah.
Good morning, sir. I am Divyanshi Singh. I am a second year graduation student of English literature. So, I am more into fiction novel. So, can we pursue a career in fiction?
Yes, certainly you can. There are a lot of very successful fiction writers all over the world, and also in India now too, because while some years back you would have had to publish abroad, now young writers are publishing here and making a career out of it. You had yesterday Ashwin Sangvi here. He's a very successful fiction writer. You have Chetan Bhagat and so many others who are doing very well. Different kinds of writers. Some are maybe more literary like me, others maybe are popular writers, but you can make a career out of it, yes.
Last, blue.
Sir, I'm Abhijit Mehta from the Millennium School. I strongly believe that you had a diary that later became the basis of one of your novels. So what kind of information you jotted down in those diaries?
Any observation that I came about, funny things that happened to me, the world around you, keep a notebook and it will help you a great deal.
इस बच्चे को दे देना ये चश्मे में इधर ये
So many of you with questions, so make them short and I'll give you short answers. It's very kind of you all to come here because I'm too old now to go to schools. A lot of schools ask me to visit them, but trudging around, it gets tiring. So it's wonderful that you and that Mr. Sharma has brought you all here. Can meet you here.
yeah.
Good morning, my name is Yutika Kenny and I'm from Podar International School, and I would like to ask you, what is your take on happy endings in novels or books?
Well, a happy ending is not necessary. Life has its happy moments and its sad moments, so it depends where you want to end the book or the story. But if you want light reading, then you can read authors who have happy endings.
Yeah, just go.
Who do you best in London?
Fix it.
Yes?
Just repeat your
Who do you
question.
miss the most in London?
Again.
Who do you miss the most in London?
What do I miss most from London? Nothing actually. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I am Richi, but I am a homeschooler. I aspire to be a linguist, and so I want to ask you how to improve vocab.
Well, that's very good. I did desire on your part and wish you well. Why shouldn't you be a linguist? Not many people are. Not many people are fluent in a number of languages, so it will be a great advantage to you if you to become one.
Yeah, this boy. Yeah.
Sir, I am Mukund Gupta from class 6. I also want to be a novelist like you, so I wanted to ask, what is the best thing about writing, which you think?
The best thing about writing is that keeps you out of mischief.
Hi sir, I'm Devraj Joshi and I wanted to ask that belonging to India, which was at a low exposure in cultural fields when you started writing. So how did your work reach the international level?
Well, in effect, my work is still best known in India, and most of my readers are here. I've had some of my work published abroad, some of my children's books. But I write about India, about Indian children, about myself growing up. So my audience is really here. So for every single book of mine that might go abroad, there'd be 1,000 that are actually read here.
Hello sir, I am Arushi Gupta. I wanted to know that you told us that your mother told you to go in army, but you wanted to be a writer. So is there any other thing which you wanted to do when you were like young?
Yes, so many things. I wanted to be a football player, and I was one, but as I was telling friends yesterday, at my present age and in my 80s, I can still write stories. Playing football, I can kick the ball a certain distance, but I'm certainly not going to run after it. And the same thing applies to some of my other early ambitions. Wonderful being a writer because you never retire. You don't have to. You keep writing as long as your mind is functioning. And so that's the best thing about it. There's no such thing as retirement.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Nishtha Kala of Queen's College, and I want to ask that most of your novel contains a name Rusty. So what are the similarities between Rusty and RuskinBond?
Rusty is a sort of alter ego of mine, which I've used where I was writing stories in which I was involved, but since they were fiction and not entirely true, so I gave a fictional name which was rather similar to mine. Yeah. So in a way it is Ruskin as a boy.
The world of literature is far away from reality. So what do you think about it, or what you can say? The world of literature far away.
No, it depends on what you're writing. If you're writing fantasy or science fiction, it might be far away from reality. But all my work and stories are grounded in reality because I usually write about real people, even though I might fictionalize the story, or I write about myself. So it comes very often out of my own life or the lives of those around me.
Hello sir, I am Netra Chandrasekhar and I study in Billabong. I want to ask you what inspired you to write your novels and what gave you the inspiration to create Rusty?
Well, books inspired me, other writers inspired me, and the people I write about inspired me because you have to be interested in people, in nature, in the world around you, and then you can be a writer.
From Indore School, I want to ask you that what types of books you prefer to write when you get bored?
When I get bored, what books do I write when I'm bored? Well, if I'm bored, I wouldn't be able to write. So you've got to be interested in what you're writing about.
Good morning, sir. Now from Colonel's Academy. My question is, how can you motivate students to read more of books? Like nowadays, teenagers and students are basically involved with technology. They get bored very easily by reading books.
Well, I keep meeting young people who do read books in spite of the attractions of technology. And reading has always been a minority pastime. Even when I was at school, in a class of say 35 boys, just 2 or 3 of us were interested in reading. And in those days, there was no television, there was no internet, there were no video games, none of the things we play today. So once if you get fond of reading, you'll always be a reader, but not everyone will become one.
Good morning, sir. My name is Siddharth Joshi and I'm from Vidyasagar School. My question is that what was your toughest time in your life and how did you maintain to remember such an adorable smile on your face?
Well, the toughest time in my life was I think the growing up years, because there was the home life was very unsettled due to my parents perhaps breaking up. So those were difficult years, and then I had to earn a living too for some time in different ways. But I think by the time I was 30, things had settled down a bit. But I think some difficulty is good for you. If life is too easy to begin with, it might put you at a disadvantage.
Good morning, sir. I am Sanakani from the Millennium School. My question is, at what age did you start writing? Did you start writing at that age?
Well, you can start writing at any age, and I was writing little stories when I was small, but I didn't start writing seriously till I was about 17, 18.
Hello, sir. I am Naren from Rangers International School, and I want to ask that when you started writing books, someone would have appreciated you and someone would have criticized you. So how would you wake up from that and utilize them in your stories?
I didn't get all the question. Well, it's good to get some appreciation, and even when I was at school, there were one or two teachers who did encourage me when they saw I had a talent for writing. So I am grateful to those teachers who did encourage me. Thank you. I'm sure you will still carry on with lots of questions. My throat is going now. Let him. He's been wanting to ask. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. My name is Arav from Indus World School, Chavni. My question is that what is the successful feeling in your life? Doing naughty things or writing storybooks?
That's a very nice question. I don't do many naughty things now. You see, when I was your age, I could somehow get away with being naughty. But at my age, it gets noticed very quickly. So I have to be a bit careful. But I wish I was young again and your age. That would be great.
Good morning, sir. I am Nafisa Ammar from Queen's College. So my question to you is that do you Google yourself?
I don't Google, I only gargle in the mornings. No, I've never Googled, I have to admit. You'll have to teach me to Google. Is it a dance?
Good morning, sir. My name is Kashvi Jaiswal. I wanted to ask that in your book, The Room on the Roof, we catch a lot of glimpses about friendship and that it is a great part of our life. So according to you, what is friendship?
Well, you see, when I wrote The Room on the Roof, I was 16, 17, 18. And at that age, friendship is very important. When you're at school, when you're in your teens, your friends are important, and I was writing about them. Friendship is still important, but as you get older, you acquire a family, and so family becomes important. Your children become important, and also your parents and grandparents. So all these things are there. But Room on the Roof was about friendship. Yes.
Last question. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. I am Gauri Bhaiti from Colonel's Academy. My question is, as in today's era, the world is really getting competitive and negative values are dominating the positive ones. So how is a teenager supposed to write, because we cannot focus more in such an era?
Now just look inward. Look inward to yourself, and don't try to focus on everything. Just concentrate. If you're a subjective, thoughtful person, then write about your own thoughts and feelings to begin with. And as you grow older, you will find yourself able to write about other things too, and the world around you.
Hello, sir. Although I didn't come with a question prepared, but just by listening to you, I got into this. I am an officially bookworm. I love books, still read a lot late at night, and I used to hide in the library, so I relate to that also.
Last question.
Yeah, and the question is that I never wrote anything, just the small things, but never as a story or anything. But can you start later at life to start writing?
Surely. You can start writing at any time in life. You can start at 8, you can start at 80, and you can be 99 years old and write your last will and testament too. So there's nothing to stop you from writing.
I'm inviting Ananya Dandekar to facilitate Mr. RuskinBond.